Okay, I have made another drawing, and this, of course, if you remember from my last explanation, was the side view of my eye. And here in this portrayal, it's open wider, but when I shut my eye, squint it a little bit, these two halves right here come together here, and then you see just a one stream of light beam. I call it a light beam. But when my eye's more open, more color is coming out. Seems to be coming out from me, from inside me. And then it kind of turns the other way right here. And all these little things here I show on the lip of this are little colorful bubbles. And they break, pieces of them break off and float out here in all this that I see. And they seem to be reaching for things because I see them sometimes up real close. You know, my vision will go zoom in and I'll see the little tail end of a bunch of them just stretching and stretching like it's trying to do something, I don't know. But these long shadowy things, they move all kinds of ways throughout what I see. And there's one of them that actually covers the area where the opening is to this eye. Things can go beyond it and through it, but it's like it's right there. And when I shut my eye more, and those things sort of move out of the way, and then you see the one stream of light come out. But what I see out here that I have pictured as yellow is really a really bright white light. I don't have any white paint that quite can show it, so I'm showing it to you in yellow, but it's really a really bright white. And this rainbow-like amount of color coming out travels, I see it in the things I see, like a ribbon. And it just weaves itself in and out everywhere. It gives color to what I'm seeing out there, because the first part of the time that I was seeing this light, I would say the first year or so, everything out here wasn't colorful. It was just really bright light. And it did all these things, but the little bubbles had no color, and there wasn't this color ribbon thing coming out of my eye. But as of the last year, I have the color in it. And I'm thinking the color is the color of desire, or will, the will force. And that we send our light out into this bigger light that represents all of consciousness. And we color what we, with our will, with our desire, what we'll see in the world. These colors represent that. That's just my theory. And sometimes these, I'm showing you these things that look like just lines, but they're really these large disc, and they're so they move about and morph all the time, but sometimes they'll shoot a bright light up that spirals round and round and has all those colors in it as well. Now I put a couple of eyes on here. I want to tell you why. At night when it's dark, I can press this part of my eye right here. You don't have to press it very hard, but when you do, for just a second, you'll see a flash of light right here. And if you press this one, you would see the flash of light right there. But that tells me that light is inside of us, because I'll be in the dark and, you know, all the lights are off. And I press that portion of my eye, and a brief little second of light flashes over here. You have to have your eyeball underneath your lid looking that way to see it, and you have to see it real quick because it doesn't last very long. But each and every time I press right there, the light flashes on there. I think that's very interesting. It's kind of showing us that this light that's outside of us is inside of us too. Or it appears to be outside of us. Maybe all of this is inside of us. I don't know. I have theories like everybody else. But now I want to show you these discs that I showed here that can turn up here and vortex and go all kinds of ways. Sometimes I see them laying down flat-like, and they look like a thin wafer. Look like a quarter or something on its side, how you see the thickness of it here. But this is so flexible. This thing can twist and turn incredible ways. And through this disc, and these that are bigger, run all the little bubbles and all the little segments of pieces of light that are all clustered together like little balls. And the GTLs that I don't show in this picture, the light segments that seem to be broken off that are joining together in very unusual ways that I've shown in other videos. All of that just floats throughout everything that you see. It even comes into this area of my eye, those little GTLs. Gossamer threads of light is a name I made up for them. And now I want to read you something from a book called the Divine Illiad, which book I have. For anyone who wants to read it, I can send it to you if you have an email to have me send it to. I would be glad to send you Walter Russell's books because they talk a lot about light. And I'm going to read you a little bit here. This is from the Divine Illiad I. And pardon me if I don't hold this real still while I'm trying to read and move my mouse around. But this is an extract from the Divine Illiad, which is the word God gave Russell. And then he's going to explain what this means in his own words, but these are the words that God spoke to him. I am the knower of the known. I am the sexless knower of the known. In me is the consciousness of all knowing, and that is my power. In me, the unconditioned one, is the whole. There are no parts, nor are there beginnings, nor endings in me, the one conscious whole. I am the dual thinker of unfolding parts of the known, the imaginer of imaged forms which emerge from my knowing, through my thinking, to manifest my knowing. My dual thinking divides my knowing light into pairs of sex-divided mirrors of the two opposed lights of my thinking. These electric mirrors are divided light, reflect my light and life in them for manifesting my knowing and the one life of my being. Forever and forever they interchange the dual reflected lights of my thinking for manifesting the continuance of my thinking. Yet they are not my light, nor are they my life, nor are they my being. I, my all-conscious being, alone live, and I alone think. Again I say, all thinking is my thinking. Also I say, when man thinks at all, he thinks with me as one, imagines with me as one, and builds his images with me as one. And when man is inspired by exalted thinking, know thou that it is I in him, who am thinking as one within him. For I am the source of ecstasy and inspiration in man. Behold in me the silent voice which man may hear, who hath inner ears to hear. And I am the light which man may see, who hath eyes of the Spirit to see. For I say that in so far as man knows the ecstasy of inspiration in him, he hears my voice, and sees my light in him. He then knows the mighty rhythms of my balanced thinking, and thinks with me. Now, this is where Russell is not, he's explaining what this is that God is saying here. That is the keynote, the very crux of power in man, the knowing of the Creator within him, hearing his mighty rhythms, and being in tune with those rhythms, with the vibrations of the light waves of God's thinking, from which he is extended and which he manifests by his thinking. Be not forgetful of those underlying principles, of the fact that there is a fulcrum under every lever of wave of motion, and that man cannot get along without that fulcrum. A mechanic who desires to lift a 10-ton rock with a crowbar can do so only by putting it upon a still fulcrum. The power is in the still fulcrum, and not in the moving lever, nor in the expression of power extended from the fulcrum. God saith, Seek me, know me, be the fulcrum of thine own power. Desire is the very basis of creation. God desires. Without his desire to express his knowing, there would be no universe of matter and space. Without desire in man, there would be no form, no product, no separation of ideal into its many parts. God's ideal is to divide the formlessness of his one whole ideal of creation, to take it apart for multiplication into many forms. Thinking does that. We think our knowing into many parts, then set those parts into motion to express the balance and the power of the centering fulcrum of the one still light from which each wave of us is extended. Now, what we do with those extending waves of our thinking is what we make of ourselves. We can be what we desire to be. We are the product of our own thinking. But our thinking is what our knowing is. We think ideal, but we do not create ideal. We produce something, but that product of ideal is not the ideal itself. It is but the bodily form of the ideal. The ideal still remains in the formless light of God, in the inspired mind of the creative thinker who manifests God. Man creates nothing but form and motion to simulate the ideal which never leaves mind, never is separated from mind. Ideal is cosmic. It cannot become matter, but it can assume material form to simulate the cosmic ideal. A watch manifests the idea of time, but it is not time. It is a product that simulates that ideal, but it is not the ideal. It also manifests mechanical principles, but the mechanical principles are not there. The wheels and the other parts of the watch simulating that ideal are there, but the ideal is not. I, as a sculptor, produce a monument. The ideal of the monument never leaves my mind. The plaster, clay, or bronze forms and symbols manifest the ideal of that product, but they are not the ideal which they simulate. An ignorant man can see those same forms as well as I, but they mean nothing to him. Another mind can be re-inspired by it and reflect the inspiration which is in my mind. My mind is an extension of the mind of God, for there is but one universal mind. In that sense, my monument is not my creation alone. I am but an interpreter of the Creator, a co-creator with God. The entire material universe is but a manifestation of God's divine ideal. The ideal itself is within the one light and never becomes a party of the two lights of motion, which electrically record the ideal of form of matter. Yet we continue to create product in a material universe which is just a complexity of light waves of matter and has no meaning whatsoever as ideal. Then we wonder why there is so much mediocrity in the world. Product without knowledge and inspiration behind it can never become an enduring masterpiece. It is as though a mechanic tried to lift a 10-ton rock with no fulcrum under his crowbar, or like science trying to do marvelous things with its levers of motion, denying the spirit of its fulcrum of knowledge. Science studies effect rather than cause. It can prove effect of motion and matter, but it cannot prove the cause of effect in the laboratory. So it relegates cause to metaphysics. Until science takes God in as a co-creator, it will never know the cause of the many complex effects. But science must know the cause. Science is at the crossroads where it must include the spiritual source of its material effects. Religion is at the crossroads too. Religion and science are as two opposites, but in the avoidance of their opposition, unity will come to both. Science, the creator; religion, the creator. They will have new knowing, new comprehension. disunity will become unity. A marriage between science and religion will remake our civilization. There are millions of people concentrating upon producing product and matter, when the secret of creation is not in effects of matter, but in the cause of those effects. And I think I'm going to have to end now. I'm running out of minutes. But I have this book and several other books called The Secret of Light, the Divine Illiad I, and the Divine Illiad II. And I have them in my Google Documents. I can send them to anyone who so desires. All I need to know is your email address. So let me hear from you if you would like to read this for yourself. There is quite a lot about light that Walter Russell discusses.